They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everybody? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So, the Toronto Raptors have been completely unimpressive so far this season. They are struggling big time right now through their first, 8 games so far. They have not been very impressive at all. This was a team that a lot of people expected to be at the top of the Eastern Conference yet again, be challenging for one of those top playoff spots, and turn in just another year as we've become accustomed to from the Raptors over the past few, right? Obviously they won that title a couple of years ago, and for the past couple of years they've been consistently in the playoffs, making it to the second round conference finals, and it seemingly regardless of whoever's on their roster, right? They had those years with DeMar DeRozan where they kept running into LeBron and then traded him for Kawhi Leonard, won the title that one season with Kawhi, and then last year after he left, they still turned in a really impressive regular season behind Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry, and now this year it seems like they've kind of come crashing back down to earth, with Pascal Siakam not playing very well at all. Kyle Lowry has had to miss a couple of games and he himself has not played super well. Fred VanVleet has been very average as well. So they're just they can't seem to find any sort of rhythm here. As I'm recording this, they just beat the Sacramento Kings tonight to get their second win of the season, so that puts them now at 2-6. And for the Raptors here, I think we need to take into account who they've played so far, as well as what the schedule looks like from here, and potentially what we can take out of this. Similarly to what I've been doing over the past couple of weeks, kind of reacting to teams' early starts and how much we can take out of them. But yeah, let's do it tonight for the Raptors. So above me here, you'll see their record and the games that they've played so far. As you can see here, they have won 2 games, one against the New York Knicks and one against the Sacramento Kings. And neither of those are super impressive. Both of those teams are not expected to be playoff teams this year, although, each of them has been playing all right so far to start the season. But winning against the Kings and the New York Knicks is not, going to set the world on fire, right, if you're Toronto. And then the rest of their losses are coming to pretty much playoff teams across the board, except for maybe the Spurs. Even the Spurs have looked pretty good so far too, but losing to the Pelicans, Sixers, Pelicans again, and then the Celtics and the Suns, all of those teams are expected to be in the postseason, and so it's not hugely shocking that the Raptors are losing these games. It is shocking that they're losing all of them, right? Like losing this many, even if you're going up against straight playoff teams, if you're a team of the Raptors caliber, you're expected to win, more than 0, right? 1, 2, even 3 of those out of those 6 would hopefully be wins if the Raptors are really going to be looking to be super good this year. But I mean, it is what it is, right? And the thing is, none of these these games have all been relatively close. It's they're not getting blown out here. As you can see, it was a 5-point loss to the Spurs, 7 to the Sixers, 4 to New Orleans, and then 12 to Boston, and let's see, what is that, 8 to Phoenix there. So it's not like they're getting completely destroyed in these games, but they're just coming up a little bit short every night, and it's mostly been because of inefficient play from their stars and just really not being able to get any consistent offense together, or really defensively for that matter. And for as good of a coach as Nick Nurse has proven himself to be, I have not been super impressed with him so far this year. It seems like he hasn't been making a ton of adjustments. He hasn't really figured out how to maximize this roster quite yet. It is a relatively new team. They have a couple of carryovers from last year, but obviously losing both of their centers. Now they're bringing in Alex Len and Aaron Baines, and then Chris Boucher is getting a big uptick in minutes, and he's looked great so far. And you brought in a couple of other guys on that free agent market, and then some of the guys from last year, like Matt Thomas, is getting a lot more minutes, and the rotation is different, is my point. But they still haven't really put anything together, and it's mostly been on Siakam, because he has been calling. A lot of people have had to call into question whether or not Siakam is actually who we thought he was a year ago, right? When he signed that big extension on his rookie contract, as was super impactful in their run to the finals that year. That was really his coming out party in that playoffs, and he parlayed that into a big free agency contract extension on his rookie deal. And now, with him being inefficient, he doesn't have Kawhi next to him anymore, and he, is kind of struggling with the growing pains of really wanting to lead this team, because it seems like the team is now trying to kind of hand the reins over from Kyle Lowry to him now that Lowry's getting up there in age, and Siakam just can't seem to really figure out how to grip the reins of the team and really take over, because it's just been really a lot of the struggle for him so far. And so if we really want to hit the panic button on the Raptors here, we can start looking at trades for this roster, because if this is what they're going to be this year, which I have doubts that they're going to be this bad. Worst case scenario for them is missing the playoffs. I still probably would put them in there. I think they'll turn it around. They've had enough of a track record with, Nick Nurse and the core of this team that they've earned enough respect, I think, to still, be in the playoffs until proven otherwise. But if we're running with this idea here of maybe the Raptors, trying to maybe shake things up and get out ahead of it here, you could be looking at a Kyle Lowry trade this season, because this is something that I had talked about, a couple of times over the course of the offseason and stuff, how Lowry's now, 34, 35, something like that. He's expiring contract this year at $30 million. And the way that the Raptors had structured their cap space is that they were saving a huge max slot for next summer for a big free agent. And now that Giannis has signed his deal, as well as like LeBron and Anthony Davis and Paul George have all signed extensions, and so next summer's free agency class isn't looking super all there, and really the only big name is Kawhi, and Kawhi's probably not going to go back to Toronto, so it's not looking like there's going to be a huge max guy out there. So maybe either that could mean two things, right? They keep Lowry and extend him using that cap space because they don't care about bringing anybody in anymore, so they just say, hey, we'll just re-sign Lowry to a new deal. Or they could trade Lowry for somebody making long-term money, because that was one thing stopping them from trading away Kyle Lowry, was that if they take anybody back who's making has a contract that lasts for beyond this season, then that's impacting their cap space for next summer. Whereas now they might not necessarily care about that, because they could just get out of Lowry and not really care about the cap space. And like I said, if they continue to struggle, he's getting up there in age and he might not come back after this year. So they could get out ahead of that and get something back. Certainly Lowry is a guy that a lot of contenders would like to have. So I feel like that would be a move that they should at least consider if they are looking this way around the trade deadline, which, again, I don't think they necessarily will be looking this bad. But even if they're mediocre, like around 500 or maybe a little bit better, feeling like, yeah, we'll probably make the playoffs but not really a shot at the title, maybe then there is still a possibility of a Kyle Lowry trade, just because of the way this roster is constructed and what the future might look like for them. And then I guess the other thing is potentially James Harden. That's still a thing, right? If you maybe want to throw in Pascal Siakam and then a bunch of picks, and like OG Anunoby, right? And that would be something, a starting point for a James Harden deal there. That's something to potentially think about if they are ready to give up on Siakam after the rough start he's had. Who knows, right? That's, who knows. But, maybe there's a Siakam trade in there. I don't foresee them trading him if it's not for James Harden, just because I don't feel like there's anything out there that they would love to get back for Siakam. I think you're mostly trading him for a better player, not for like picks, because he is still, young enough that you kind of want to keep him around. So that's, something to think about there. And then, you're probably keeping Anunoby after re-signing him last offseason. You're probably keeping Fred VanVleet after re-signing him in the offseason. So really, the only potential huge trade on this roster is Lowry, and then maybe a huge Siakam bomb if there's, the James Harden thing. And then other than that, I guess I just want to look at a couple of these players. Chris Boucher just signed a new deal. He's probably going to stick around. Aaron Baines is making a decent amount of money. He could be thrown in somewhere. So I don't know. There's a couple of possibilities here for the Raptors if they continue to struggle around the deadline, but we'll just have to see how it goes for them from here, and what Masai Ujiri plans for the future of this team, because we know he's not he's not afraid to make a big trade. He's not scared to do anything really, and he's proven himself to be one of the better GMs in the league over the past couple of years. So I don't doubt that Ujiri is definitely planning ahead right now, and I think we might potentially see some moves out of Toronto at the deadline. But yeah, anyway, I am still a believer in the Raptors culture to, be able to carry them to at least be a respectable team. I don't think they're going to bottom out this year, and this roster is too good to bottom out. But there are some valid concerns about how this season has gone for them so far, how they've looked, and whether or not they have the capability to turn it around. I'm not much of an I told you so guy. I'm not going to really toot my own horn here, but I did make that video about the Raptors a couple of months ago, how I said they might be in a position to potentially fall a little bit back in the Eastern Conference this year. A lot of Raptors fans were not happy with that take, but it is looking a little bit better now. And it's still far too early to make any grand declarations about, the Raptors are washed, it's over, they're not going to make the playoffs. Like I said, I still do believe that this is a playoff team. But yeah, I think I've said all I need to say. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you think about the Raptors, and whether or not they actually are going to turn it around this year, or if this team really is that bad, because I don't know, it's just been up and down for them so far, and 2-6 is not something that a lot of people expected through the first 8 games of the season for the Raptors. But yeah, that's all I have for you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.